Wonder Man Review. Marvel's take on Hollywood filmmaking is a welcoming watch. Most of Marvel Studios' Disney Plus shows have had one focus only: to further the grand multiversal story heading into Avengers: Doomsday. Last year, Ironheart made the larger connection to Doctor Strange lore with the introduction of Mephisto and Vision Quest, looks to finish off what WandaVision started. However, one show really breaks that mold: Wonder Man. Wonder Man, which is the second title under the Marvel Spotlight banner, truly feels different than the banner's previous and first series. Whereas Echo was rooted in the deep history of the Marvel Netflix era, this show instead stands on its own ground. Of course, that does mean that it can include some elements Marvel fans are familiar with. In fact, the return of Trevor Slattery, best known for his intimidating performance as the Mandarin from Iron Man 3, fits really well into the journey Simon Williams embarks on. This show is actually like any other series with the MCU or anything to do with live-action Marvel, and that's because of the tonal focus. Although it is emotionally driven to similar shows, the linear storytelling is completely focused on Simon's mission to become a real actor. In the show, Wonder Man is just a film that Simon loves on the surface, but it's rooted in the relationship he has with his father. He wants to live up to the potential his father sees in him despite his brother's pessimism and his troubling breakup with his girlfriend. At the start of everything, Simon's at his lowest point. It's when he meets Trevor at the very start that really starts to see the show's emotional edge taking shape. Together, Simon and Trevor gradually form this charming, yet relatable, mentor-like relationship that turns into an actual friendship that's all too sweet to see. Abdul Mateen invigorates Simon with this cool-headed yet resolute drive to get the job he wants that makes him a unique character within Marvel. Unlike other heroes in this universe, Simon simply wants to be successful on a small scale, viewing his superpowers as a detriment to achieving that. When he's with Trevor and begins to open up himself to him, there's this endearing chemistry that the duo bring to the table. Whereas Simon's characteristics make him more practical, Trevor's experience is able to provide this hilarious old-timer charisma. Whether it be making a joke about Shakespeare to quoting early 90s films, Trevor shows that he's always fun to be around. The joyful chemistry that Simon and Trevor share throughout Wonder Man definitely serves as the highlight of the series. However, when they separate, the show carefully takes time to explore their emotional attachments to the main narrative. Through flashbacks, we learn that Simon is hesitant to reveal his true self because of several factors. One of them, which is an overarching detail to his character, is a childhood incident involving a kitchen fire. The impact of this event really shows in episode 3, which does a satisfying job in connecting the pieces of the Williams family lore. The other detail is the fact that superpowered individuals are barred from being Hollywood stars. This is explained on episode 4, aptly titled Doorman, which is a standalone story. As an episode that captures the roller coaster of stardom and a downhill spiral, it really works in showing its reasoning through a play-like format. As another highlight, this is the episode that feels most like The Studio, as it feels like a one-and-done story amidst the larger narrative. However, you could say that that show has influenced the basic premise of this miniseries in the first place. That said, both of these elements really round out Simon's arc throughout Wonder Man, where his powers are used sparingly and are only shown when he's overcome by these emotions. In those moments of anger, the extreme close-ups on Simon and objects that reverberate because of his powers really intensify his character. The action of Wonder Man is limited, but in the moments we do get action, it works, showing that his extreme driven and passion for the craft, reinforced by his familial need to provide, has its negative effects perfectly captures that idea of sacrifice most superhero stories want to have. Yet, it's that small-scale perspective that the series has that makes this particular arc resonate. In Trevor's arc, his work with Agent Cleary and the Department of Damage Control lends for some funny, yet intimidating and heartfelt moments. Despite Trevor seeing this spy operation as his way out, his good guy personality fully shows a conscience that was slightly explored in other MCU projects. Watching Trevor slowly break free from Cleary's hands to eventually telling Simon the truth on episode 7 is a wild ride. The bromance that Simon and Trevor develop really makes you sympathetic as the two exchange their appreciations and skills with one another to get the roles for the big film. You could say that Trevor is trying to rehabilitate his own image through working with Cleary, like what's explored in Hacks. Both shows do explore that idea, albeit through different narrative formats. That is to say, there are definitely commonalities between Trevor and Deborah Vance, like their connection with an up-and-comer and their need to resolve their personal issues. However, when it comes to franchising, Trevor's been in a lot more films to realize his character. Of course, there's still some things that hold Wonder Man back, like how the other side characters in Simon's world interact with him. Some of them, like Simon's agent Janelle and Von Kovac, are relegated to only having a foundation. I do hope that Eric Williams does get some further involvement, since the comics version was also teased in WandaVision. Furthermore, the final episode may feel rushed due to the setting stakes left when Simon blows up the studio and Trevor takes the downfall. However, it was nice to see that Simon still cares for Trevor, putting in the time to conduct a little escape plan of his own. Here's to hoping the door's still open for another season. Overall, Wonder Man is a genuinely fun and stimulating buddy drama that puts a confident spin on Hollywood stardom stories while keeping it unique to the MCU. Despite it being on a smaller scale, it still manages to accomplish its mission of making Simon Williams an interesting character while showing potential for more. Critic rating. User rating. All episodes of Wonder Man are now streaming on Disney+.